Hello, Lanas. Welcome back to our segment. Remember, like in our previous class, we had introduced the concept of portfolio performance measures. And in that case, we mentioned basically the three concepts. That was Sharpe's, Treynor's, and Jensen's method. So in our class today, I want us to look at a question which will open our mind wide when it comes to matters to do with the concept of portfolio performance measures. And the question that I want us to handle today basically is a question which was tested in August 2022, question number 5C. So let me share the question with us here so that we can have it together. That's our question, believing that is very clear on our end. This is a question, believing that is very clear on our end. And you'll find that these are some of the free marks that you must always be taking advantage of. These are some of the free marks that you must always be taking advantage of. So like going through this question of ours, a good examiner is telling us that I'm having the following details which are given here, which the following information relates to the performance of three portfolios, that is A, B, and C, during the year ended 30th June 2022. So the portfolio that I'm given here, I'm having, of course, portfolio A, B, and C. The average return of the portfolios I'm also given at that point. Standard deviation I'm given for the whole portfolio, right? Then a good examiner has given us covariance of portfolio return, of course, with market returns, correct? A good examiner also, he went further and gave us additional information. We were told that the market return and risk-free rate averaged 14% and 7% respectively during the year ended 30th June 2022. The standard deviation of the market, a good examiner has given us what? Has given us 10. So, given that, what will we be expected basically to have in mind? This will be very simple so long as you are able to recall what Molimo gave us when we started, right? See these items. Basically, my focus literally is on the summary. My focus literally is on the summary. You see on the summary, when we were analyzing the portfolio performance measures, this was literally our summary where we mentioned that at any given point in time, if I'll be looking at Sharpe's, the whole idea in this case, we're looking at standard deviation. Treynor's, we're looking at beta, and Jensen's, I'm looking at alpha. A good examiner has given us the two, Sharpe's and Treynor's. So the back of our mind, when I'm handling this, I know very well that I should be having the concept of beta and the concept of standard deviation at the back of our mind, right? So to start with Sharpe's, basically, we are looking at basically, it will basically indicates excess returns of our portfolio above the risk-free rate as measured by what? By the standard deviation of the portfolio. So let us work it out. Allow me to raise this point because this is what we did in our last class. My good students will find that financial management advance is always very easy once you are able to analyze and understand the whole concepts, right? In terms of not cramming, but rather understanding the whole concept of what we are dealing with. So mentioning that, we jump straight to, of course, our question here. I can basically squeeze it there, at least to be a bit visible to all of us. So the first thing that our good examiner wants us to do is to compute Sharpe's performance measures. And you know very well by now that at any given point, whenever I'll be required to compute Sharpe's performance measures, I should be having our return of the market, expected return of the market, minus our risk-free. In this case, you're saying that this is measured by standard deviation. That is what you must always tend to have. And the standard deviation at this point, we are talking of the standard deviation of the security that I'll be having. Very important to have. That, of course, is the standard deviation of our portfolio, right? Standard deviation of our portfolio. That is very important. So looking at it in this case of ours, once I have the formula right, and this one we did it when you're introducing, no need of repeating everything. So in this case, I need to identify our variables. Therefore, I know very well that I'm talking of how many securities here. we're here of basically three portfolios. Portfolio A, B, and C. So I'm having portfolio A, portfolio B, and portfolio C here, right? We can go ahead and also determine the Sharpes for the market, right? So in this case, talk of it, I'm having, if at all you can look at our additional information, we are told that number one, I'm told that the market return and the risk-free average to 14 and 7 respectively. So that one won't be having a lot of changes, but rather just to take it directly as it is. So I'm having basically aspect of market, right? So the average, the market return, and the risk-free average to 14 and 17 respectively during the year. So start with basically aspect of expected return of, in this case, you're looking at the portfolio because we're not dealing with the market. Expected return of our first portfolio, in this case, we are given what? 17.55, right? Minus risk-free, a good examiner here has given us our risk-free of 7, right? Standard deviation of portfolio A, I'm having what? 30, right? That is what I'm given. For B, I know very well now, this will not change. 17, but risk-free will not change, but the market return will change, expected return of the portfolio, that is. For B, I'm having 13.26 minus our risk-free, which will not change, to be 7. Of course, we divide by the standard deviation. In this case of B, I'm having 34. The other component of C, portfolio C, I'm having 9.34 minus risk-free, which is 7. Standard deviation of the portfolio, I'm given basically what? 28, right? So once we have that in mind, the other things will just be a matter of copying and pasting, right? And you'd be like, Mwalimu, is that simple? Yes, my good student, is that simple. Is that simple. So at least in 2 decimal places, we should be having 17.55 minus 7 here, divide by 30. This should give us 0.35. Then I'm having basically aspects of B, 13.26 minus 7. Divide by 34, this should give us 0.18. Then talk about 9.34 minus 7. Divide by 28, this should give us 0.08. Right? That is what you should be having. That is what you should be having here. So you'll find that our return in this case, or rather basically talk about performance measures in that case, I'm looking at it in this context. So on this case, you can determine the portfolio that are efficient, inefficient, or basically aspect of super efficient, or the one that you can basically accept. Remember that one we did it. So assuming that we are to do that, we'll have to compare, or rather we'll have to do what? For the market as well, right? So in this case, if I told you to go ahead and do basically for the market, return of the market, expected return of the market, you're given, a good examiner has given us 14 minus risk-free 7. And what about the standard deviation of the market? The standard deviation of the market, so you're clearly given there. Standard deviation of the market is 10, right? So if I told you what to do for the market, we should be talking of 14 minus 7 divide by 10 to give us what? 0.7. So you can always base it on that, right? You can always base it on that. So literally, that is what we were required to do in that question, Sharpes. In this case, we've worked out Sharpes portfolio performance measure. Number 2, we know very well that at this point, our good examiner is asking us to compute for what we are referring to as the trainers. And for trainers, remember, for Treynor performance measures, Treynor portfolio performance measures. At this point, we say that basically we should be talking of what? Beta. Should be talking of beta coefficient, because ideally it is the risk premium per unit of beta. Treynor's portfolio performance measures, we are looking at it as a risk premium per unit of beta. And if at all we were to look at it as a per unit of beta, the question that we should ask ourselves is, were we given our beta in this question? Because we can't work out Treynor's without beta. We can't work it out without beta. So the next question that you should ask ourselves is, were we given our beta? We weren't given, right? So if not given beta, always know that you can always determine our beta of our securities by taking covariance of our security and market. We divide by the standard deviation of the market squared. This one should give us what? Beta. In this one, we looked at it. Remember when you're looking at capital asset pricing model, CAPM, right? I'm very sure we had looked at this. So it is very important for you to always be able to identify such variables. Like in this context, we've realized that our good examiner has not given us beta, but you're given the core variance, right? Because like in our case here, we are told that I'm having, based on our question, we are told that the covariance of portfolio return with the market return, I'm given there, right? So these are portfolio return and the market return. So therefore, in this case, you're looking at it in terms of what? Beta of our portfolio now. Beta of the portfolios. So I'm having covariance of our portfolio and the market. Very simple as that. So looking at it in that context, our first procedure here will be to determine the beta of each portfolio. So we need to determine beta of portfolio A, beta of portfolio B, beta of portfolio C. This should be our first step. This should be our first step, right? So looking at this, determining our beta, what will we be able, or rather what should we be able to do? The first thing first is to identify the covariance. The covariance here of our security A, I can clearly see I was given the covariance of our portfolio return and market return of A. I'm given 0.0088. Do you have the standard deviation of the market? You're given the standard deviation of the market, which in this context we're given what? That was at, of course, 10%, right? So in this case, you should be talking of what? 10% squared, which is literally 0.01 squared, as per what you're given here. Let me just show you guys. Look at note number 2, right? As per our note number 2, I'm given our standard deviation of basically the market to be 10%. So just a moment here. So being 10%, so you know very well that you should just square that, right? So let me squeeze this question again. So that will be very simple, because all that I'll be required to do is to take that value of ours, right? Then, of course, that should be 0.1 squared. Talk about the other component here, the other component in relation to beta of security B. Beta of security B, I should be having covariance of portfolio return with the market return, which is 0.0750, 0.1 squared. Lastly, 0.0021 divided by 0.1 squared. So this should give us our betas, right? That should give us our beta. You pick your calculator, you give Mwalimu that, and you'll find that it is as simple as that, right? no need of struggling that much. 0.008 we divide by 0.1 squared. So therefore, in this case, I can clearly see I'm getting 0.88, right? The other one I'm having basically 0.0750 divided by 0.1 squared. That is, of course, 0.0750 we divide by 0.1 squared to get basically 7.5. Believing that literally we are on the same page. Then lastly, that one I know you can give Mwalimu that one. You can give Mwalimu that one. We're having 0.0021. We divide by 0.1 squared. This literally should give us 0.21. So the moment we have this, the rest I think will just be history, right? Because I know very well that for Treynor's portfolio, I should be having expected return of our portfolio minus our risk-free here. We divide by the beta of our portfolio, right? Treynor's portfolio. So mentioning that, this will now be very easy. Actually, in this case, it's as if I won't be needing that question again, because I know very well now for A, I should be talking of our expected return, which was 17.55, excuse, minus 7. We divide by the beta, which is 0.88. For B, I'll be having 13.26 minus 7 divided by beta of that, which is 7.5. And lastly, for C, we should be having 9.34 minus 7 divided by our beta, which is 0.21. Right? So what will we be having? If at all I remove this question completely, what will you give Mwalimu there? What will you give Mwalimu there? Will you wish us to basically work it out together, or in that case, Mwalimu should leave it for us? Mwalimu can leave it for us, right? I know you can hack it out, but you'll say, Mwalimu, fanya kazi yako, right? So we're having 17.55 minus 7 divided by 0.88. So basically I'm having 11.99. 13.26 minus 7 here, divide by 7.5. In this case, you should be having 0.83. Then lastly, 9.34 minus 7, divide by 0.21. This should give us 11.14. Kindly, my good students, confirm if we are getting the same values. Kindly confirm if we are getting the same values. And therefore, these are what you're required to do in that question for us to earn the 8 marks, right? It is as that simple. It is as that simple, right? So to that point, I think in our next section, you're going to handle another question. There's a very good question which was tested, I think, in November 2020, which you're going to look at it, right? So at that point, thank you so much, and let us meet in the next session. Thank you. Bye.